Hey there, welcome to the UkeStuff channel and welcome to this full UkeGuide review of this instrument. This is the Ranch R-WM-23. Originally, Ranch only had one series of ukuleles. They had it in different sizes, but they all basically look the same. I think they're made out of laminate sapele. They're still available. I think they're calling it the classic style now. But then some time ago, they came out with other models. And I actually received a question on one of the videos saying, what about the walnut model? Well, I bought this one from Goodwill, and it is the second sort of broken ukulele that I ended up buying. This one you could not tell ahead of time, but there is definitely damage. You can see it in the light right there. There's damage across the bottom where it has been cracked or something. Now, I have tried to repair that with some tight bond in there, and hopefully it will stay. This one is actually going to end up becoming part of the fleet of ukuleles that I let my students check out and use at home and bring back. So it already has been given the different kids strings so that it can go into that service like that. I've done some things like oil the fretboard and oil the bridge and some other things. So it's a little darker than it would probably be, but that's how this one got to me. So I did not intend necessarily to buy the walnut for review, but it ended up falling into my hands. And that is what we're going to look at today. Now, what we're going to do in this video is three things. First of all, we'll look at some subjective categories that I do for all instruments. Second, I will talk about the specifications. Third, I'll summarize the instrument and give it a UkeGuide rating. Also, I should say that there is the published UkeGuide, a single-page summary of this that you can find at my channel at UkeStuff.info. And if you want to support the work in this channel, there are three things you can do. You can like the video, you can subscribe to the channel, and you can always buy me a cup of coffee to say thank you for making this content at buymeacoffee.com/UkeStuff. Also, I do have two books available on ebook and EPUB and PDF format. They are available on that same Buy Me a Coffee page. You can also get it at Apple Books and Amazon Kindle, also in print at Amazon. There's a couple other things for sale on my Buy Me a Coffee page as well. So let's begin with the subjective categories. First of all, cost. This is $74.99. It comes with a kit with Ranch's rather decent gig bag. The industry has gotten a little bit better. It comes with a strap, and this one, that's the only thing it came with, is the bag and the strap. It was so hard to get the strap off. It is sort of sewn in a way that it's really hard to get off once you put it on. So just be warned of that. It does come with strap buttons though, so that is there. So it's a good kit for $74.99. Now in terms of value, I think the value is good, but we're right on the edge of too much for an entry-level laminate ukulele. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, but there are a bunch that are just like it. I think this one is a little more attractive with the walnut, and I'm not the greatest fan of walnut. So we'll get into appearance in a couple moments. But in terms of value, it's a good value, but it's not an out-of-the-park value. These things used to seem like they sold for under $60 from time to time, and $74.99 is quite an increase. Granted, there's been inflation, but still there's a lot of ukuleles of a similar build that you can get for less. In terms of the build quality, this is not, I am sure, the fault of Ranch. This is the fault of the previous owner that donated to Goodwill and then it was sold. Otherwise, it appears to be a pretty good build with one caveat. The saddle was way too low. Now, it's the same height as the previous Ranch that I reviewed, but for some reason that caused buzzing on the A string, and it's still right on the edge. It's functional now, and it will work for what I'm going to use it for, is letting students take it home, but definitely the action was too low. So I would check to see if your action is too low as well, and check for buzzes. Go through every single fret if you buy one of these to make sure there's no buzzes. If there is, send it back, because that's something you shouldn't have to deal with. All right, so let's take an endoscope and see what's happening on the inside of the instrument. I call this the internal Uke Cam. So here we go. Looking at the tail block, it has a tail block. It's generally a pretty clean build. I've got to stand still so you can see what's going on here. Really, a decent quality laminate. You can see the horizontal bracing that would be on the back. There would also be, there's a horizontal brace, there's a bridge plate, and you won't see the strings coming through because it's a slotted bridge, but it has supports, it's a decent quality laminate, and it's a pretty clean build here on the inside. Let's take a look at the upper bout. All right, it can be challenging to get far enough back to actually see the upper bout, but there you can see the neck block, you can see the build there. Really clean, no glue mess. You can see the horizontal brace on the soundboard right there. Decent laminate, really traditional clean construction. So no complaints about the internal construction. It's just the saddle that was too low on the instrument that caused some buzzing. All right, let's talk appearance. It is more attractive. I think there's more to look at here than the original Ranch, which was kind of plain. It did have binding and some other things. This does too, has binding, and it has the purfling along the side, and you've got the rosette, that's an applique, and the Ranch logo on it, the different Ranch headstock, which is nice. You've got the slotted bridge. So there's really a lot of neat appearance things here, and it's a nice looking ukulele, even though generally I'm not a big fan of walnut, just in terms of its appearance. So yeah, it's a very nice looking ukulele with some more features making it more than just plain. Now, in terms of availability, if you want to buy one of these, they're available on Amazon right now. You can get one. Now, for playability, I'm docking the score here because there was a buzz on the A string, and it's close right there. And I could continue to raise it up, but I don't want to go too crazy with it. So it still has that edge of a buzz. And if an instrument has a buzz, you're not going to want to play it. So in terms of playability, that's a knock on it. There were no sharp fret ends here. It's a standard 35mm nut, is sort of a chunky C-shaped neck. So people with really large hands will probably not like it so much. In terms of sound, overall, it's a good sound. It's loud and it's warm. There's not a lot of sustain here though. Now, if I hold it away from my body, there's more than if I do hold it with my body. So at that time I held it away. So it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a balanced tone. It's not super sparkly. Again, it could be the strings. These are the Aquila kid strings, which are basically the Nile gut with colors, if you want to think of it that way. They're available for education at a very low price, which is part of the reason why I love it. Also, I also love the strings because it's easier to teach because you don't have to do numbers. You can talk numbers in terms of which fret, but then colors in terms of which string, and that helps students and adults as they're first starting to learn. Down the road, you can say first string, third fret, but when you're first beginning, if you say blue string, third fret, kids can latch onto that much quicker, adults too. So the sound is probably similar to what it would be with its original Aquila or Nile gut sort of strings. If you wanted more sparkle, you might want to try other strings. So it's a loud instrument. It's pretty loud, more on the dark side, but it is balanced. So slightly towards dark, but a balanced sound overall. On these reviews, I also play the instrument into Tonal Energy Tuner to let you see what I am hearing. It gives you an idea of what's happening with the harmonic energy and where the distribution of sound is with the instrument. So I'll play the C chord and 3 times, and here we go. I think what you're seeing there in tonal energy is kind of what I'm hearing. An instrument that doesn't have a lot of high-end sparkle. It's not a whole lot of sustain. I don't hear any overtones really ringing. It's just the core sound of the instrument, and it's towards the dark end of the instrument. All right, now that we've talked about the subjective categories, let's go into the specifications. It is a concert ukulele with a scale length of 15 inches, which is identical to the other Ranch, which makes sense. 18 frets with 14 to the body, and there are side position markers. The body is a traditional double bout, and the soundboard and back and sides are all made out of laminate walnut. The fretboard appears to be rosewood, as does the bridge. The bridge is a slotted bridge, which makes string changes quite a bit easier. It does not have a radius fretboard. It's a flat fretboard, and the saddle seems to be a composite saddle, almost like a tusk or a new bone, and it's certainly not just plastic. It was too short, so I needed to raise up the saddle and could probably even inch it even a little further up. It is not a compensated saddle. The finish is a satin finish. The overall length is 24.25 inches from top to bottom. That's because of the big headstock up here. And it weighs 1 pound, 1.1 ounces, and it's balanced pretty well. It has closed gear tuners. Those white things are only little protectors that you take off later at another time. In terms of action, originally the first fret was at 0.43, the 12th fret was at 2.25. Now, you can have an instrument that is set with low action if you're going to play gently, but if you're going to be strumming and doing other things, it might cause a buzz. So you've got to be careful about how low the action goes as well. When I raised the saddle, it did not appear that the saddle had been shaved down at all. And I'm pretty sure that the other ranch also had low action. Just it worked for that one, did not work for this one. And it's probably why it was traded in, because somebody couldn't figure it out. The nut width is 35.02 millimeters. The space between strings at the first fret is 8.96 millimeters, which is 29.20 millimeters G to A at the first fret. Pretty standard 35 millimeter nut spacing. And the depth of the neck at the third fret, that's where I measured from the top of the strings to the bottom of the neck, is 20.98 millimeters, which isn't terrible, but it's still pretty C-shaped and round. Again, I like a thinner neck up there, and I just wish that the entire industry would move that way. Again, you get the gig bag, you get a tuner, you get a strap, you get extra strings, you get a cleaning cloth, I think you get some picks. So you get a lot of stuff with this at that $74.99 price point. All right, now that we've talked about the subjective categories and the specifications, let's summarize the instrument and give it a UkeGuide rating. This instrument, again, is a newer addition to Ranch's line. Originally, they only had one sort of standard line in different sizes, or one standard model in different sizes made out of sapele, and they've branched out. There are some others there too that I noticed that are in colors and other things. The price on this unit is $74.99, which seems a little bit high in today's market. Of course, there are usually Amazon coupons, and watch for Amazon sales because, you know, it's dynamic pricing and it changes every day. Didn't mean to buy this one. Particularly damaged. This one was purchased from Goodwill, and you can see in the light there a little bit that there is some damage down here. And I used some Titebond to sort of seal that as best I could, but because of a buzz on this instrument, it was on the first fret because the saddle was too high, and because of that damage, this isn't something that I can sell to somebody else or whatever, even give to somebody else. This is one that probably should just stay in use as a school instrument, and if it gets damaged, no big deal, no loss to anybody. Didn't spend a ton of money on it. I think it was about $30 plus shipping, so whatever that worked out to be. It wasn't terrible, but certainly not a great experience with Goodwill. It's two bad ukuleles in a row. If you've seen the Islander review, that one also was bought damaged, that I wasn't quite paying attention. This one, you would have no way of knowing until you actually got in hand, because it wouldn't show up in the photos very well. You have to get really close to see the damage. And there is no return policy with Goodwill, just as a warning if you buy from there. So it's a good sounding ukulele when the buzz is taken care of. It plays really well if you don't mind a 35 millimeter nut, which I don't. It's built out of decent laminate. It's totally a passable entry-level ukulele for anybody. It's got a good warm sound. Maybe I would try different strings than these. These are the Kila Kid strings because it's going on loan with my school, but the originals would have been sort of a Nile gut sort of string, not a fluorocarbon anyway. So I would try fluorocarbons if you were going to buy one of these. The only thing I would say is if you are going to buy one of these, when you bring it home, check the action on every, or the action or the buzzing, check for buzzing on every string, every fret all the way up. If it's buzzing, send it back, because you don't need to be monkeying around with that. If it's coming at that $75 price point, you shouldn't have to set it up. It should be ready to go. So what rating would I give this instrument? This is a real hard one for me. The instrument itself is really decent. It's just that it had that buzz. Now, incidentally, every manufacturer can have instruments that have buzzes. So that's something to keep in mind. That's not a slam on any particular brand. It's just the reality of life. But when the action gets this low, buzzes can happen. So with that in mind, I think the instrument itself is worth a 4.0 as long as you get one without a saddle that needs adjustment. If you need to adjust the saddle, then we're probably down to a 3.5 or a 3.0, because that's nearly double the amount of the instrument if you take it to a luthier to get figured out what's going on there. And of course, I hold no ill will towards Wrench for that damage because likely it was caused by the person selling it to Goodwill. So with that, it's a decent instrument, would make a good starter. Just make sure there are no buzzes when you buy one. All right, thanks so much for joining for this full UkeGuide review. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll be back soon with some more Uke stuff for you.